Hi everyone. We are getting rolling on our research projects this week. You've drafted an introduction and you've also started looking through library resources or other internet resources to begin identifying sources that might be useful. You're writing about your process. You've submitted a draft that has your introduction and your description of your search for a first source, what you found there, what you think about what you find there. So you're already practicing the moves of the iSearch paper, and your research is underway. Some of you might be feeling really successful and finding tons of things that you want to read. Some of you might be hitting some walls with identifying useful keywords and research strategies once you're in like a database that seems like it should work. And some of you might be going, I have to just get the energy to even start researching or focus enough to get myself to sit down and start working on the process. So we are going to walk through a heuristic that can help with the process called the CRAAP test today, CRAAP. There's a handout in the module that I'll show you where you can download that so you can have it available. And I want you, as you move into the next phase of research and writing your iSearch paper, to practice evaluating your sources using the CRAAP test to figure out whether they're current and relevant and accurate. And I'm forgetting what the other A is, but we'll look at it in a second. So we are going to use those, or this heuristic, the CRAAP test, to look at whether a source is the right kind of source to be using for the paper. I'm going to just fresh off, I haven't planned this yet, so this might be a little difficult. I am going to jump into the databases and look for some resources for some of my research right now. And I'll use the heuristic to see how I want to apply that to what I'm finding. So here we go. So here we are in the week 7 module, and you'll see here the CRAAP test handout. I want you to click on that, click open in a new window. And here on that page, you're going to see a run through of the CRAAP test, which stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. And you're going to use the questions underneath each of these sections to think about whether and how a source will function in your project. Notice that there is a PDF version here that you can download. Maybe you want to save that to your desktop or print it out so that you can have it in your notebook as you're jotting down ideas and things like that. Okay, so have that open while we're working through the next part of the video. I'm going to start by reminding you that here on the left-hand side of Canvas, you can get to the Wayne State Library by clicking Library Resources. And that takes us to our English 1020 Introductory College Writing Research Guide. Remember that in here there's some videos that hopefully you've already watched, and they can help you understand how to use the library homepage. There are a number of library databases that might be useful for the specific topics that you're looking at, and as I'm reading your drafts, I may recommend specific databases to you, and there's some work to think through different types of sources. I also want to show you, for the purposes of this, and I think I did this in another video as well, the research guides more broadly. You can browse by discipline. So if you are doing a research topic, as I know some of you are in the area of criminal justice, then this link will help you find databases and resources relevant to that specifically, related to the environment perhaps, whatever the other topics are that you are getting into, nutrition and food science. I know some people are researching those kinds of questions. The question that I'm researching, I think I'm going to try looking through an education. For this, I'm going to go to the education database, specifically the ERIC ProQuest database. Ooh. So this is what happens when you get in the library databases. My eyes just scanned over here and I'm like, this looks like a very interesting book. I'm going to have to come back and check that out. Anyway, going into the ERIC ProQuest database, let me authenticate from home. Okay, remember that I can do a basic search or I can get into an advanced search. So I will pick the advanced search. Okay, so the research project that I am currently working on has a number of parts and pieces to it. So I'm only going to be researching one smaller part of that today. And I think that the part that I'm going to research today is to help me think about a question that I have about how doing multimodal presentations helps students think through their writing process. So that's actually something you're already doing in Project 2B. As a teacher and a researcher, I'm trying to figure out how to write about that. And I can't just write about what I observe and what my students are doing. I have to first understand the questions and the research and the topics related to it that have already been addressed in scholarship in my field. So I'm going to use the term multimodal composing and learning. Let's just start there. And let's try college writing. All right, I only want peer-reviewed essays because for my research, I need to cite scholarly texts. All right, let's see what I find. Okay. 3 results. That means I did some very specific searching. And so I'm going to use the CRAAP test to think through these 3 results and figure out to what degree they're relevant for me to be reading for my project. So again, I'm going to look at the timeliness of the information, the relevance of the information. Is it important for what I'm writing about? The authority or the source, the accuracy. Is it reliable? Is it truthful? And then the purpose. And that's especially so that I understand what this text was intended to be used for. So that might be important for those of you that are researching like health-based topics. Sometimes if you're researching on the internet, you may come across commercial websites whose ultimate goal is to try to sell you a particular maybe diet strategy, medication, or even like a class or something like that. So you really want to understand what is the purpose of the piece of writing that you're looking at. Okay, so back to my search results. Now, the movement of air, the breadth of meaning, orality, and multimodal composing. This is actually a text that I've read before. It's a text that I read at a summer seminar a few years ago when I got really into the idea of students presenting in class. So I know that for my topic, this is important. I already know that, even going in. I'm like, I recognize this author, I recognize the piece. It's a really cool piece of writing. But the part of the CRAAP test that I really need to be thinking about is currency. I know that I am going to reference this text somewhere in this research project. But I've really got to think about how much I want to rely on a text from 2009 that has already been cited by 122 other people. I know it's very important because I can see how much it's been cited, but I also know that there have been developments in how multimodal composing is used in teaching writing since 2009. So I'm going to cite Cynthia Self, but I'm going to have to think about how much. Definitely need to use the text though, for sure. So I know I'm going to use this one. I know I'm going to save it because I'm familiar with it and how foundational it is. I don't need to go beyond that. Okay, let's look at this one. Multimodality, Translingualism, and Rhetorical Genre Studies. Laura Gonzalez, Composition Forum. That's a good journal, so I know it's coming. Well, I checked peer reviewed, so that helps. And 2015, so it's newer. Let's read the abstract and get a little bit of help. This article situates one possible future for rhetorical genre studies in the translingual, multimodal composing practices of linguistically diverse composition students. Well, I'm definitely interested in that because when I'm thinking about relevance, I would be comfortable citing the source in my research paper because I trust writing that's being published in that journal. But also, it seems relevant to me because we have a linguistically diverse student population at Wayne State. So it's got my attention anyway. Okay, using focus group data collected with L1 English as a first language and L2 English as a second language students at 2 large public state universities, the researcher examines connections between students' linguistic repertoires and their respective approaches to multimodal composition. Okay, so I'm really interested in how students learn through the process of engaging in multimodal composition. This is about students in composition courses and not in other English classes, so that's really helpful. So that's all useful. The part that I really need to think about in terms of, again, how much I'm going to be citing this source is that Gonzalez is focusing on representing the case for writing instructors to teach genres as fluid and socially situated, and that's super important. Totally agree with that approach to teaching genres. That's not necessarily the focus of my research, so I'll have to think really carefully about how to position that. Okay, so I'm thinking about relevance, and some parts of it seem really relevant, again, to the student population, but maybe not to my ultimate goal. Okay, third one. Multimodal resemiotization and authorial agency in an L2 writing classroom. Date, October 2017. So if I'm thinking about currency, it's definitely timely. I trust the source. So in terms of relevance, I totally trust the source. It's peer reviewed. That's really important. I don't have to worry about accuracy issues. Okay, but let's take a look at the abstract. This study examines the composing process and authorial agency of a college ESL writer as she remediated an argumentative essay into a multimodal digital video. Okay, so the topic sounds really interesting. We actually, in English 1020, do a project where you take your essay and you translate it into a new genre, maybe a video, maybe something else. So it seems like it could be relevant for looking at a particular case, but my study is not about ESL writers, even if I have ESL students in my class. My research question isn't about teaching English as a second language. So this might be one that I keep on my list to put in my back pocket, but it's probably not going to be as integral because even your second language learning and second language instruction are the primary purposes of this. So it's current. I trust the authority and the source of the information. I know that it's accurate because the study has been peer reviewed, but maybe not as relevant. Okay, so I am walking away from this initial search, which apparently I picked really good keywords. That's good. With a definite and a probably and a maybe based on my use of the CRAAP test, which is not a bad start. I can write, if I was doing an iSearch paper about this, like you're doing an iSearch paper, in my reflection passages, I could write about how once I read and report the information from Cynthia Self, how I need to think carefully about how much I draw on that text when I know that there's been a lot of work done since then. And I could also think about what is particularly foundational that Cynthia Self presents in this. One other research strategy that I should just demo while I'm looking at it right here is that I could see who else has cited her and where that takes me. So maybe my search terms we know my search terms were very specific because I only got 3 results. That was easy for me to work through, but maybe a little bit different search result would help too. The listening composer toward a pedagogical framework for orality and multimodal composing. That seems really interesting. That's a dissertation. What else do I see that might be interesting in here? Multimodal composing as inclusive pedagogy and inquiry into the interplay of race, gender, disability, and multimodality in an urban middle school. Sounds super interesting. I don't teach a middle school, but so that might not be as relevant using the CRAAP test. Let's just look at one more page and see who else has cited this text. So people who are writing in elementary settings, middle school, high school settings, about a lot of different kinds of ways of teaching language and writing are using this text. That's really interesting. I just kind of messed with it, investigating students' resources for learning digital composing technologies outside of class. That might be really interesting to learn about process. Okay, so using the cited by feature might be kind of helpful there. Let's jump back to our English 1020 research guide. And let's imagine we're looking at a little bit different kind of topic. Okay, I'm in Gale opposing viewpoints because I know that this will link me to a lot of different perspectives on a topic. And I know that there will be, in addition to a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different kinds of sources that are accessible through Gale. So like I can get academic articles, I can also get videos, I can get newspaper articles, I can get linked to magazines, I can get linked to charts and graphs and things that might be useful in Project 2A or in Project 2B as I'm trying to show things that I encountered in the research process. Okay, interesting. Children of divorced parents. I'm going to go to that one because I am a single mom. I have 4 kids, and we were just divorced last year. And so this is something that I'm thinking about a lot of the time. Let's see. I could look in here about different kinds of aspects. I think one question that I had, here's a good one. Adult children of divorce are more likely to have relationship issues. Okay, so in our whole class, I'm probably not the only person whose parents were divorced. So this is interesting to me because I wonder how much that is true or how much that experience of my childhood, I don't believe that influenced my relationships in any way, but I've heard that it does. So this is really interesting for me to look at. I could, think about how is that true? They even start with questions. Did you grow up with divorced parents? Have you ever given thought as to how that experience may be shaping your own behaviors today? Interesting. But also interesting because this doesn't especially anxious about romantic love, adult children of divorce either go from one relationship to another or avoid them altogether. That's not me. That's not an experience that I have. So interesting. Okay, I know that I'm going to find who wrote this. Let's apply the CRAAP test. Article commentary. There's an author, Going Bonkers Magazine. What is that? I've never heard of that before. Time, October 2010. So this is 9 years old. It might provide some interesting ideas for me to build from, but there could also be some other research done since. Research goes in a long cycle. So sometimes going back like 10 years makes sense. Sometimes research takes like 5 years to work through and then to get published. So that's really interesting. So I might want to think about the time of that, but I also need to know a little bit more about the source, because I can certainly tell you that Going Bonkers Magazine, just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean anything, but I'm not sure where that is. So in terms of the CRAAP test, let's go back here. Authority, the source of the information. I don't really know anything about the sponsor or the source of this information. The author is a psychologist, and she's written a book on adult children of divorce. Okay, so at least the author seems like she has a credible ethos, but I need to know more about the topic. So I might also consider looking at some other articles related to that. Let's see, definitely want to check out the academic journals. Okay, so I can see things from Journal of Social Inclusion, Social Behavior and Personality, psychology journals. All that stuff is really useful. So I guess I just want to encourage you to, you have to be really careful about the sources. Oh, look, there's some audio and primary sources. Let's check those out. Just because a source relates to your topic doesn't mean it's going to be the perfect source for your paper. And you've got to think about what the ethos of the organization or the source or the writer is. You've got to think about the argument they're making and how they are using research in their presentation. So like applying those rhetorical analysis skills that you learned and practiced in Project 1 is also important as you're reading here in Project 2. And think about why that information is being presented, what's it there for. But this is your goal this week, to practice applying this CRAAP test to what you're reading. And you could even reference this and write about it in your iSearch paper. I hope this was helpful. I anticipate that I'm going to see some of you this week and or talk to you in another way, on the phone or whatever, about your research projects. And this would also be a great week for you to jump in and spend some time talking with Michelle or Tori about your research projects.